working at a restaurant, and my friend, sadly, who had passed away about 2 years ago, he was working at an activity kiosk, and he told me he's doing timeshare. And I thought, like, I can't do that. Like, I had a lot of anxiety at the time. So I ended up, no, I got the job because he lost it because of drinking, and I got the job. And then I realized, like, if I didn't overcome my anxiety and get good at sales, I was going to be homeless. So I was like born out of necessity. So I'm in the hotel industry, but it's like 99%. What I do is I book timeshare presentations. And I think sales for people with on the spectrum might be kind of hard because you have to know how to like read people's facial cues. Yes, I enjoy sales. This kind of sale can be overwhelming. I don't sell timeshare, I just market the presentations. I've done it since like 2011. My passion is hypnosis. That's how I help myself over the years, working some of my internal issues. So I'm looking at helping other businesses to help their sales teams overcome anxiety, overcome burnout. I know I can make much more of an impact on that, and it's more fulfilling for me. So sales is fun, but there's definitely that burnout aspect. Sucked at school, and it was weird because my parents are teachers, so the excuse, I'd come home like, do you have any homework? I'm like, no. I thought I was getting away with something. I think they knew like I had homework, but they're exhausted trying to wrangle a bunch of kids and like cats at their own schools they worked at. But yeah, school was hard, and I definitely noticed some behaviors I had in school. I remember one memory I had. I was walking, probably in like 7th grade. I was walking by a chair, and then I think I spun around, then I did it the other way. So I don't know. That was like an OCD behavior. My friend kind of pointed out. One other thing, that I had this habit that I used to do where I would kind of stretch my neck like this, and I just saw it as me stretching my neck, but in retrospect, it was definitely like in my opinion, it might have been like a stimming behavior. Back in, I think it was in 6th grade, or I'm sorry, it was like 5 or 6. I found a book on hypnosis, and a friend actually hypnotized me and helped me, and I got rid of that behavior, like stretching my neck. But it actually just showed up in the past 2 years. I don't know, like what happened, what caused it to resurface. But with all the tools I have from training in hypnosis, I know I could easily work on getting rid of that behavior again. So I've been in Hawaii for 16 years. I think it was in the past 16 years, like things started making sense. Like I had a behavior when I was little. If I got real angry, I'd like hit myself in the head, which a lot of these behaviors just, I don't know what happened. They just stopped doing that behavior. If I go through like extreme amounts of stress, I'll find myself doing that, or I'll find myself like biting my finger. It's almost like a form of punishment, which I know I've got enough tools where I can manage that stuff now. I just have to put the time in to do the work ahead of time to kind of manage that. It's so funny. I was just on a Zoom call today we have an accountability group. We're talking about sense of humor and whatnot, and this guy said he has no mouth breaks. When he said he has no mouth breaks, I'm like, oh my god, that's a perfect way to describe it. I mentioned how I'm surprised I haven't been taken to HR before, but I think how, and there's some instances where I've at work I've mentioned my book that I've wrote to people talking about how I overcame some of my mental health issues over the past, how I pulled myself out of conspiracy theories. And I'm surprised that nobody has complained about it. I also think that doing some trainings over the years, for years I didn't think I was funny, but then I realized it's like how I deliver a lot of my stuff. I think you can almost say like a sarcastic comment, or you can say almost a mean comment, but if you give a certain spin, you say it with a certain tone, people just brush it off, which I don't know how I've been turned into HR over the 2 years, but somehow I've got the secret. I need to unpack what the secret is. autism, I think people don't see it as a spectrum. And keep in mind that I'm totally self-diagnosed. It might not be autism. It can be something along neurodivergent. I'm going to assume it's more on the autism side or Asperger's. But I think it's seen as such a bad affliction that I think a lot of people see the worst of the worst. People are nonverbal, so they don't see somebody that's high functioning as having autism, if that makes sense. It's Converting Conspiracy Theorists. It's about so long story short, years ago I had a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, almost bordering paranoia. It was even to the point where I thought people were saying bad things about me. And back 6 months after 9/11, I met a guy in a bar and he was talking about 9/11 and Alex Jones, and I got pulled into very dangerous conspiracy theories. And it was from about 2001 to 2007. And there's a couple instances I mentioned in the book that talk about how that helped me to realize I was being fed misinformation. It was a couple instances helped me to, how do I say it? Helped me to break through the shell of confirmation bias. And it was that book talks about how to communicate with people that are kind of in conspiracy theories or cults. The next book I think is going to be more of like a coping with conspiracy theories. I'm going to take it one of two directions, either like a self-care guide for family members of conspiracy theorists, or a guide on how to communicate with your loved ones. That might be how to make it so you guys can get along during Thanksgiving versus not ever speaking again. I don't know. I've got to figure out what direction I'm going to take it. Yeah, if you go on Amazon, if you're international, I'm working on fixing the distribution. If you go to Amazon, go to convertingconspiracytheorists.com. Website is Escaping the Rabbit Hole, and I've been interviewing former conspiracy theorists, family members of conspiracy theorists, and some therapists talking about the issue of conspiracy theories, because it's, with the advent of social media, it's gotten very bad. I had found some of Tony Robbins stuff, and keep in mind, this is not a glowing endorsement of him, because he can definitely, there's a cult atmosphere around it. That led me into looking about NLP, hypnosis, other self-help books, and a big issue I've had with a lot of motivational self-help stuff is just be positive, in which it can be very hard to be positive, especially if you have a bunch of internal conflict. One book that made a big difference in me is Rethinking Positive Thinking. It's about mental contrasting. It's a real simple process called WOOP, W-O-O-P. It's about mentally contrasting your goal with the internal struggle that would prevent you from getting it. And then they give you a tool. It's like an implementation plan saying, if X, then I will Y. If internal struggle, then I will do this. If fear of failure, or if, let me think of a good one. If fear of rejection, let's say if I'm afraid that I'm going to be rejected by somebody, say if fear of rejection, then I will take 3 deep breaths. If fear of rejection, I will take 3 deep breaths. This is too short to go into it, but the book Rethinking Positive Thinking is really good to describe that. Or anybody that you can download the WOOP app, W-O-O-P, you can download it for free and it'll guide you through the exercise. I found that out to be really good for almost getting me out of my head. If I'm caught in a thought loop, to get me out of my head and try to implement, try make a change so I can kind of pull myself out of whatever it is I'm in. When I was like 5 or 6, I found a book by, I think it was a medical hypnotist, if I remember correctly, at my great grandma's house. And being a young boy, thinking like, wow, I think hypnosis is seen as like you have power, which I mean, it's not like that. I tell people, if I had as much power as people think I do with hypnosis, I could have people rob the bank. It doesn't work that way. When I was a kid, I do remember. It's really funny. I do remember reading the book, and then I think I made a hypnosis recording. I was like 6 or 7. I remember specifically wanting to help people that were autistic to kind of break out of their shell. So maybe that was foreshadowing on my part, but I do have this memory where I think I saw something on the news about autism. I remember thinking like, wow, I want to help people be able to communicate better, which I do know some people have been able to successfully use hypnosis with people on the spectrum. I think it may range. It's way easier if somebody's high functioning. A lot of people on the spectrum, I think, have a hard time reading between the line, and a lot of hypnosis work, indirect hypnosis, for example, like conversational kind of stuff, a lot of metaphor is used. So sometimes that might be hard if somebody has a hard time, if they can't read between the lines. A couple things that I've used is a phenomenal tool, focusmate.com, FOCUSMATE.com. I think it works on the body doubling concept of ADHD, where I think it's like $5 a month and you get unlimited sessions, or I think it's free for 3 sessions a week. I think you get teamed up with a random person, and you have your mic on, your camera, and you say, hey, I'm working on this. This is what I'm working on. I mean, that's been a phenomenal tool. And if anybody listening to this is nervous, like, oh God, I'm going to be on camera, and I guarantee there's a lot of people on the spectrum. That tool, there's a lot of people that have like focus issues, and everybody on the tool is very, very, how do I say it, inclusive, I guess. And it's a tool to be productive. That's made, when I do use it, it's made a phenomenal. It's helped me out a lot, which I'm actually probably going to do at least one session tonight to write one chapter of the new book. Another tool, one of my best tools, has been something from hypnosis called core transformation. That has been a tool that I've used to help with like ADHD. It helped to overcome a trauma. We had a neighbor that was killed when I was little. You can find the book on Amazon. It's almost easier if you can find somebody to guide you through the process. It's very trance-inducing. It's the idea that every behavior we have, if it's like a thought, behavior, etc., it's trying to fulfill some kind of function. For example, I used to have a fear if I was in my bathroom, if the shower curtain was closed, I would like think to myself, like, what if there's a serial killer back here? I had that fear for years. Or when I was real young, if I turn off the light and ran to my bedroom, I would jump under the cover, and I just have this like panic feeling there was like somebody was trying to hurt me. Come to find out, we had a neighbor that was killed, like I said earlier, when I was, I think, 5 or 6, and it was really brutal. A couple of times I had nightmares kind of almost related to that issue. When I used core transformation, luckily I did one session, a self-facilitated session, and about 99% of the fears related to that vanished. So I thought, like, oh my God, I found the magic bullet. Sadly, it doesn't work like that for everything I've worked it on. I've used it, anytime I've used it to resolve an issue, it's worked, but it usually takes more than one session. I think it was just the intervention I needed at the time. Other tool that's similar to that, I started reading this book, No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz. It talks about it. The thing is called the internal family systems, IFS, internal family systems. It's the idea, I think, almost from family therapy. You've got like, the parent, etc., and whatnot. With this, it's the idea that that any of our emotions, etc., there's almost like internal parts of us controlling it. With this process, you're just communicating with the parts. One good exercise is, I don't know if you can see this on this piece of paper. One of the exercises is you kind of try to become aware of the different, maybe the emotions you're feeling, and then draw like a little mental representation of what, just draw something on a piece of paper that represents it. And then you let that emotion kind of just fade away, and then you see if that emotion trails off to another one, draw that on a piece of paper. You do that until you feel like it's, until you kind of flesh everything on a piece of paper, and then you kind of pull the paper away, you look at it, and that's almost like a system of the pattern of all those parts, those parts working together, and you can just ask that representation you're looking at, like, what do you guys need? And you can see which parts work together, which parts are allies, etc. A lot of times we think that, our bad. We think of behaviors as bad, or we try to exercise things out of us. We don't like feeling bad. I look at it this way: it's a message. And if you, it works really good on like internal conflicts. If you ever have somebody like, oh, on one hand, I want to eat a piece of cake, but on the other hand, I want to be healthy. It's almost like we're talking about like little inner children or sub-personalities of us that are battling. But when you talk to those parts in like a loving way, those parts are usually used to us trying to just ignore them. But when you talk to them in a loving way, they're more open to dialogue. Well, I got a lot of interest. One is wanting to help people with anxiety, helping people to overcome their anxiety. I'm very creative. It always comes. I think where it shines the most is oddly enough during Halloween. Like, I love Halloween. I'm contemplating doing the niche of the conspiracy theory thing. Maybe the people that I find people that want to be de-radicalized, I can maybe coach them on different things that I've done. That, I'm not sure how big that is. That's going to be, I think I'm going to set it as a passion project for now. Definitely some kind of hypnosis practice. I would like to find businesses that have sales teams that are, like I said earlier, they have sales teams that are maybe burned out. Especially with the sales burnout, there's a high turnover. So if I can help a business to maybe do a workshop on Zoom, or go in their office, do a workshop showing people how to manage their emotions and their state. By managing their state, keeping the anxiety and stress down, it's lower chance of turnover. And so that's less money a business is going to be spending.